white guilt.
Let's talk about it.
My white privileged, I'm saying what they said, is by infinite percentage. Multiply 10,000 by 0. Yep, 0%. Okay, so apparently they have 0% white privilege. Kind of goes back to the other one. I'm assuming they're white, but maybe they're black, and then they wouldn't have white privilege. So maybe that is
Nailed
who you
it.
are. But if you're white and you have 0% and you're thrilled about that, like I wonder, to me you're still triggered. Or why would you have to write that, right? Something's going on that you don't want to admit, and you're triggered by it, so you have to put that in there just to let us know that you are a white person that has no feelings whatsoever about the privilege you have. I mean, if you really felt like, I don't know, that doesn't, resonate with me, you wouldn't have to write that. So what is it?
Privilege. It's interesting. I've just formulated this right now. If you could see that blank look on my face, that was me thinking.
Okay.
Privilege is access, not whether you use that access or not, right? And I think that's the thing that a lot of people forget. So I'm throwing a very blanket statement out there for anyone.
Okay.
Men, white people, straight people, whatever your privilege is, right? If, as a straight white woman, you decide that you don't want to have kids, not because you can't, not because you're a woman trapped in a man's body, not because some horrible thing happened to you, which we know, we can start talking about that, right? Like how black people just were, oh, you know what, maybe we shouldn't let them have kids, whoop, scooped out, right? Like these things really happen.
Okay, we gotta put that in the description though. Like, so this is another thing, like I don't wanna go, like, there are so many things that we did not really hear about. Like, North Carolina is pretty damn bad for one of those, right?
Yes.
So maybe we can talk about that later and also put a link in the description because there's so much that you have no idea about. And I keep learning almost every day, oh my God, really?
No, we didn't do that, right? Oh God, we did. We did that thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Anyway, so we'll get back to that. But
yeah.
What we said.
But I think that if you decide to not have kids, you're still privileged, right? You could have, right? If you are a poor white family, absolutely. Things probably happen. People keeping you down. There's lack of education. We know this for a fact. But you could go get a job interview and probably get further than a highly educated black person. In fact, not only probably, but there have been tons of studies done by white people, by the way, that said just black people figuring stuff out, right? We know that there are studies that have shown that if you are uneducated and white, that you can, in an interview, typically for a good job, get as far as a highly educated black person. We know that, and there are tons of studies about this, right? That's a privilege that you have, whether you use it or not, right? To dumb this down a lot, if someone walks over to me and says, hey, here's free tickets to the Durham Bulls game, I have the privilege of going. But if I don't go, I don't get to whine and say, well, I didn't go to the Bulls game. I still could have. And you couldn't have because you didn't get the tickets, right? And so I think what people miss out a lot on when they use the, I don't have any privilege, look at me, I grew up in this place, or I can't do these things that other people can. Yeah, I get it. But you had a better opportunity. Now there's outliers to all those things, right? Thousands. Right? Any poor white people, we're not saying, well, you just didn't try hard enough. We're not saying that at all. But we are saying that there are a lot of instances that you have privilege, whether you use it or not, that other people wouldn't in your same situation. And it's about same situation, right? You are not as privileged if you are poor, white, living in a small town in eastern North Carolina to uneducated parents. You are not as privileged as a wealthy black person whose parents all went to an Ivy League school. You're not as privileged as them, but you're more privileged than a poor black person in eastern North Carolina in a small town to poor uneducated parents. Your whiteness gives you more privilege than that person does. There are instances where it's the opposite too, right? So all those things you really have to pay attention to, but it's, yeah, I don't know if we talk about the monopoly thing, because I really
you know, but check out the episode about the monopoly, because I think that really describes it really well.
Yeah.
But I like that it's just sort of easy to understand, like privilege equals access. And I mean, we could list hundreds of like not getting the bank loan, like just, you know, like not getting the houses.
Yeah, redlining, that's a thing, right? That's
yeah,
and not a secret thing. So many of these things are not secrets anymore.
Yeah,
they're just, you don't listen to them.
Right.
So yeah.
So I'm sorry, whoever you are, but you do have privilege. Now, maybe you don't use that privilege. Maybe you should, because you've got it. Use it.
Especially use it for good. There's no point in having a super. You know who had privilege and didn't use it?
Who?
Oh boy, I'm really dating myself. I Dream of Jeannie.
Oh.
Right? She had magic powers, but then her husband or whatever was like, don't use those powers. You know what? She could blink him out of existence if she wanted to. She opted not to. For Jeannie to be like, I don't have any privilege, is some and it's the same for other people, right?
I used to watch that show.
Oh, I love that show. And I was always mad at him. Darren from Bewitched, are you shitting me? If Lane came home and said, hey, I got magic powers, I'd be like, well, why are we still living in this house? Get to work. Use it, right? So you do have privilege, and instead of patting yourself on the back to say that you don't, use it and do something with it. Yeah. Either for yourself, but don't be selfish. That's not what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
But like use it as a bridge to actually move everybody else up.
Yeah, I like it. You two as individuals might be genuine, well-intentioned human beings, but the optics of two seemingly middle or upper middle class individuals sipping what looks to be wine or champagne, red wine, cheap red wine, while concluding that poor white people still have privilege. I don't think we ever said what poor, but anyways, does this conversation absolutely no justice?